name's Ralph and welcome back to the channel. It's my time, let's go. Today we're going to be working away on our Black Evo motor and getting it running. So we're going to start with getting the lines hooked up and getting some oil pressure run through it and starting to get things tightened up so that we can fire this motor up. So stick with us and see how it goes. So I've turned it over a couple times and I'm not getting any pressure in my gauge. Now, I do believe my gauge is good, but that doesn't mean anything sometimes. So I have primed the pump, as you've seen. So I'm just going to pull this off. This is the line off the top that's going to feed up to your lifters and such. And sometimes there can be a bit of airlock from the pump up to here or somewhere in the line that's not allowing it to go through. But now if I turn it on and roll it over, there we go. So now I know that I have oil pumping up to here, which is what I want. And if my gauge is working, and or is it making pressure? This is what we have to look for. And we just want to turn that down to the bottom. It's kind of easy to see there. So we know that it's trying to push oil up here, but we don't know whether we're getting pressure or any amount. And just looking back through, my return line is returning some oil. Not a lot, but it is returning some. There'd only be so much in the crankcase. So I'm going to try another gauge, I think. I think that's what I'll do, is try another gauge first and see if that's a problem with it or what. So I've got a new gauge to put on here out of the box. We're pretty sure that that is going to work, and if not, then obviously the oil pump is not pumping. Put a little 1/8 plug in here to plug off this line, and now I see oil dribbling out of it, which means it's not tight in there. And if it's not tight in there, then it's obviously going to blow pressure right out that hole, because it's right in line with it. It's finger tight. It's always better to find something easy. I'll take this right off. And I'm going to take this little plug and put some sealer on it. And I'll try to get it in there nice and clean. So it was just this little 1/8 plug, sort of a plug tab there that we put in to plug this hole, and I hadn't tightened it down all the way. So it was allowing oil to run right out there. But now we've got it sealed up there, and other than our oil drips here, we're fine. All right, okay, got our little plug in there now. Let's give it another little shot. We get some oil in it and get stuff rolling. Everything's pretty dry there to build up compression and oil pressure and stuff, so everything's dry. But at least here now we can see that this is pumping pressure. So we'll keep an eye on it. So we got our test exhaust, such as they are. I'm not even sure what it is. The rear pipe I think is off an Evo, but I think the front pipe I got is off of a Sportster, I believe. The old one's been used a few times. Another step closer. So we're going to get ready today to finish up setting our ignition. As we showed you earlier, gave you a good idea of how to set it up, get it installed in there, and now we're going to show you how to set the timing. So this ignition system tends to be something a little bit different. As we set up the dynos, we were always setting it up on top dead center, bringing it up there, then looking for the light to break and tell us where to set it. With this type of weights operated system, it's a little bit different because as the motor spins, this piece actually opens up the weights and advances the timing. So this has to be nice and free here. And when we go to set the timing, I have a little pair of pliers like that have little grooves. They're hard to see in there, but little grooves cut in them there. And they were made for grabbing the original point lobes on these things. So I'll be able to just grab this lightly, even with a pair of pliers, so that you'll be able to turn that back and hold it while you move this plate and we get the spark plugs to break. We get this ready here, and what we're going to do is turn it over and get it on front cylinder compression stroke, and then we're going to look for the front cylinder advance mark, which should be before we hit top dead center. In this particular model, it should be a straight line up and down. So we're getting it to come around up on the compression stroke. Intake, intake. Now we're coming up on the compression stroke. So there, we're on compression now. I can hear it. We've got it right where we want it. We're coming around. We've got the cylinder on compression stroke, and we're looking for the dot. Yep, there we are. Front cylinder advance. That's where we want to be to set our timing. Let's check it. Okay, we're on the mark. So to get it set up, we'll have to wire it in, but I'm going to put one of my good spark plug wires in here. I should be able to ground it right up here in my motor mount, I think. If I lay it right there, I should be able to see it, and that way I can rotate this backwards and move the plate where I want the plate to move until you see the spark. So now we're going to take our white wire and we're going to connect that to the 12-volt side of the coil, which I have as a red wire here. And the blue one, of course, goes to the negative side of the coil, or the other side. The 12-volt wire will be the wire that comes from your motorcycle to your coil, which brings power to it. Let's call that the 12-volt wire. Just tape around there, just fine for what we're doing. Okay, power on. Power to the system, and I should be getting a snap somewhere. And no matter how far I go from one end to the other, nothing. Just sizzled and popped. That was the end of that tune. So much for saving money on that piece of crap. We'll have to send that back to the supplier. I won't name who they are, but pretty upsetting to get to this point and just put it in there and have it go and dead as a nit. So I'm gonna have to change track and figure out something else. I'll keep you informed. So I've been digging around in my spare parts bin and old stuff, and I found an Ultima ignition. I don't know how good it is. We're soon going to find out. But I'm pretty sure that this unit here is fried, and there's no way around it. So by putting the Ultima one in, we'll soon quickly tell if this one is fried or not. So first thing in the morning, that's going in. So I was going to put the other electronic ignition in it, but as I dug around and found some points parts, I thought, what the hell, I might as well try and set these points up and see what's going where I'm not quite sure of the other ignition. Points are points, and they'll fire. So we're going to go ahead along and probably show you a little bit on how to set your points up and a little bit about. All right, let's go. I got a bunch of different timing things, but none of them will go on. It appears that that one's gonna. There we go. Well, sir. So this would be to the other side of the coil, like a points coil. All I'm really looking for is a spark. I know I'm nowhere even close. So I got fire up top just from doing that. So I know by putting the points in there now that I'm getting spark. I'd like to run a brand new motor on something a little more dependable than points. But so I may still switch over to the other electronic ignition. I'm not quite sure. But maybe we will fire it up with the points in it and see what happens. Alright, it's a job for tomorrow. Checking out. So I've come over here today and had a look at it, and after some thought I figured why not put a set of points in it and see how it goes. I'm sure they'll work fine. We ran points for many years, and it's always a good thing to have as a backup if you break down on the road anything pre-99 basically that has a plate in it to run your timing. A set of points in your saddlebag, a good chance could get you home out of a pinch. In any case, we're going to try and set this up today and see if we can get this thing to probably run with these points and see how it goes. Alright, stick with us. But as you can see, we have our points plate set up in here. There's a small rotor here that the points has a little bumper here that rides on, and it lifts it up and down, up and down, up and down as this turns. It's a cam of sorts. So what we're trying to do to start with is we have to get these points set to a certain gap. So we're going to turn the motor over. I'm pretty close there, but not close enough. So we're just going to roll it around till we can see that the little fiber plate that's on the bottom of our points is at the highest lobe on the cam, and that's what we're trying to get it at. But on the bottom of this, if I lift this, you can see that there's a piece of fiber sticking down underneath it. And we're on the high point on this cam. It has all different levels in it as it goes around, but right now we're on the high point on the cam. So right there, we want to set these points at about 18 thousandths of an inch. So what we're going to try to do now is set this gap right here. And I'm fairly close there. I'm just going to loosen it. You can go to this screw in the top here. I'm just going to loosen it a little bit. And what I want to do is move this plate up a little bit. So there's a spot right in here where you can stick a screwdriver and just ease that plate on up. Okay, we look like we're fairly close there. And we're right there. That's what we're looking for, so I'm going to lock that down right there. Check it. Right there. So now those points are set. So now that we've got that set, we can go and turn our motor over and set it up to front cylinder advance on the compression stroke on the front cylinder, on the advance mark, which in our particular motor is the dot. So we're going to go and do that. Then we'll come back and readjust our points plate to get it in the right position where we want it. So we brought it around on compression stroke, and now we're just looking for our dot to come up. There it is. So we can check that we have power here. Our points are actually touching together, and I have a small test light, flashlight, which makes it handy. And if we just break the points, you can see my flashlight lights up. So what we want to do is get this plate just to the point where those are breaking when that cam lobe comes around. Trying to grab that and rotate that camshaft back to the left, counterclockwise on the weights. Now you can see a little bit of the test light, and I'm just going to turn the cam lobe to where it breaks, to where I've got the weights wide open, just where it's breaking right there. And that's exactly what we want, right there. And when they break and reach the top lobe, they should be 18 thousandths of an inch. So that should be about it, to setting these points up. It's a very simple solution, and like I say, it just has to go from here to the negative side of the coil, and we probably get you home in a pinch. I'm hoping it's going to fire this motor right up, so I'm feeling good about it. Why not? So there, we're pretty well set and ready to go. Before I finish up on this, I'm going to give a special tip here to find out, because I did have problems with a set of points here that wasn't firing properly. And there's a quick check that you can do if you put your points in and you see that they're not firing. There's a way to kind of narrow it down and let you know that, hey, I got no power to the points. All right, so let's check it out. So we have the single line that's coming out of our coil, and it's going to here. And this is the negative side of our coil. This is the positive side, although it's hooked up in behind and it's already running 12 volts up to that side. But this would be what you classed as the negative side of the coil, and that's where the points would connect. So I'm trying to get my meter up here so that you can see what happens. And we're set on 20 volts on our meter, so we've got lots of voltage. I have 12 volts on. I have no voltage here, which is great, because if there was any voltage showing here, our meter would be jumping, because our points are touching and grounding it out. So now, one of the first tests you can do is you make sure that the negative part coming out of your meter is ground. There. So we're going to take the negative terminal out of our meter, and we're going to hook it on the ground to our ground on our stand. Positive side of the meter. Now we have our this line goes down from the point side of the coil, and it is hooked up to the point side of the coil right now. So the first thing we do is turn the power on. We'll take our positive lead and we'll stick it right here on this ignition part, and it's 0.1. Now they say if it's above 0.125, if it's up above that, which it would show, then there's a problem there. But as we have it, there is no problem there. So our second test that we're going to do now is we're going to raise these points up. So we're going to take a little piece of tape that we've got, 100 mile an hour tape, folded up. Could be a block of wood, could be anything you can get in there to put underneath that fiber piece. I've got the power off so I don't get shocked. And what we're trying to do is get it so that our points are wide open. Turn the power on. Now taking our positive lead and touching it to the points, we see that we've got 12 volts there. So that's what we want. That shows us, and we can also check, we know that it's coming from where we're touching our lead down there to our point side of the coil. And by blocking this up so that it's not grounded, and anywhere we touch on here, there's nothing. But that point that's up gives me 12 volts up there, and it shows that this point set is insulated from the main plate. So, let's get a few more things hooked up. First off, my overflow line. If I get overflow in the gas, I don't want it all running in. Get that little tiny tube started up on there. I'm going to leave it out here so I can see it hanging at the bottom. And I need a little piece to plug the top. So we've got to plug the little vent hole on the top of the carburetor. Now most carburetors have these. This one has two actually. There's one off the manifold and there's one off the carburetor body itself. Now these little vent lines can go back and run to what's called a VOES switch, which is a vacuum operated switch that advances and retards your timing as you need it. We're not using it. I don't use them generally. So we're just going to take a little piece of this hose. We'll put a little tiny screw like that in it. There we go. We're going to screw it in so that the threads cut into the rubber and seal it. I'm also going to put a little twist tie around it just to be my anal self. By screwing it in tight, it should help us seal it off. So we're going to cut it off just a length down here like this, what we need, and slide it over top of the nipple there. Just snick it off there. We just slide it on there. Put this little tie wrap around there just to squeeze it in on the threads a little bit, but it should be fine. So we've got everything else ready to go. just want to dump the old fuel that's in there a little bit. We've kept these small PITCH units. These are little ones in a bag, so to speak, and they help keep the fuel nice and fresh. I also had one of these in there, which was overkill. So we're going to clean it up, dispose of that gas. All right. Now we should just have to hook the fuel line on that and it'll be ready to go. And we'll hook it up to our fuel line in the back here. Now, because we're going to run points, I've hooked up a 5-volt coil, which is proper for points, and I'm going to gap the plugs at, I think they say around 33 for points. But so we'll set those and come back and get them in. So the next thing we got to do, we've got everything hooked up. I got my plug wires in. I think I'm okay. We do have to hook up a little better hookup for my points, stronger, because they're just kind of wired there. And right now I just want to turn the fuel on and see if I'm going to get some gas in. I put rags here because quite often they'll leak. We'll try. There we go. We got fuel flow. Okay, looks like we're pumping. What's that at? Check the top screw. So when you get ready to fire it up, you're always a little bit apprehensive. Every motor that I fire up, I worry about. I can't help it. You never know when you have every nut and bolt and washer and screw, everything out of it, put it all back together and hope it works. And when it does, that's the big payoff. So, through our series shows you how you can build your own Evo motor if you follow us through, with a few specs that have to be done by some skilled people maybe. But for most all, you should be able to put your motor together just as I have and run sweet just like that.
You want me to start this? You tell me when you want me to start.
So you always wonder when it comes time to fire your motor up if you've got everything in place. There's always that little checklist of things. Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I hook that up? Did I get that clip in there? It's all those things that go through your mind. But when you fire it up and it sits there and purrs and just, you know, it's a little blurpily because of the exhaust there. Yeah, I'm used to that, and I got a set of points in it, so it's not as smooth as it could be. But it's fired up. It's running. The engine's smooth. I cover the exhaust pipes up, and that way I can hear everything in the engine working without listening to the exhaust. This motor sounds really good. I'm really pleased. So then we're going to try cycle it for another minute. There we go. So we just got to do one more 3-minute cycle and we're all set. We'll do that later on. But now she's running and we're happy about that. After all the work and all the wondering, she sounds good. So I'm pleased to have it running on the stand. That's it. So if you enjoyed the series on this PITCH-BLACK EVO motor, like, subscribe, ring the bell, share, tell others. You know, I'm just out there having fun doing stuff and trying to pass on what I know to some other people. So if you enjoyed it, stick with me. We're here for the long run. Well, there she's running done, and we're glad to hear it running here, and that's the way it should be. So I'm pretty pleased with that. So I'm just going to leave it sit for a little while there. I don't mind looking at it. I'm going to unhook some things and get it ready to move so that I can have a next project to go up on there. But here we are, and she's percolating. Throw us out a comment. I love to hear from people and hear their different ideas on things of what I'm doing, or things maybe that you'd like to see me do. I just kind of go along and do what I'm doing and what I'm interested in at the time, and follow through with that, and then move on to the next project. So you never know what I can put on my plate and get ready, and maybe some of you guys out there can learn from some things that I'm doing. All right.